next question. Oh, I need to like put on my Asian mom mode. It's like, why would you walk away from a stable job to travel?
Because work has been so good to you, right? That's what they say. My mom definitely said that. It's like, oh,
like good benefits.
Yeah, good benefits. And it's like, oh, they like your boss is so good. You know, all of that. But no, but even though it's good, like, do I want to live until 65? And then I go on my cruise when I'm like with holding a cane or whatever.
Like shake you.
Yeah, like that's when I want to like, because I had benefits, it's totally not worth it. And I would say live your life now.
Welcome to Proudly Asian, a podcast series that tells bold and proud stories of Asians by Asians. My name is Isabel, your podcast host, and I'm here to find stories that challenge biases we face every day. There's never just one way to look at Asians. This podcast will take you through a deep dive into the life stories, struggles, and triumphs of young Asians around the world. On today's episode, we have Barry Hoy, a Canadian travel blogger based in New York. Born and raised in Toronto, Barry fell in love with traveling the first time he flew to Hong Kong when he was a kid. He joins us to talk about his experience growing up Asian and gay in Canada and why he decided to quit his 9-to-5 to travel the world. Welcome back to Proudly Asian. Now, for this episode, we are releasing it just before June. And do you know what June stands for? It marks the very occasion of the International Pride Month. So I would like to just quickly say Happy Pride Month in advance to all our audience members from around the world. And of course, to mark this occasion, what better way to celebrate it than listening from all the amazing LGBTQ members from around the world about their proud and bold life, you know, and Barry, who's sitting next to me right now, he's sort of living some sort of like a dream life for everyone as well. So we're gonna take a deep dive into that during our conversation. But I mean, let's just very quickly welcome Barry. Thank you so much for joining us on Proudly Asian.
Thank you for having me.
I know that you're not always based in Hong Kong, and I'm just so glad that we are able to like sit down face to face in our Hong Kong studio to just meet you, hear about your amazing journey as a travel blogger. But I just want to like quickly ask about your breakfast today, because I heard you had a pretty tragic
It was
breakfast.
Fabulous. I'm trying to carb cut. So I had fruit, some vegetables, and one dumpling.
One dumpling. Everyone, did you hear that? How can anyone just stop at one dumpling?
I mean, it was a buffet, but
the willpower
I chose the one dumpling. Exo sauce with fish, I think.
Ooh, like I could never just have that's some crazy willpower you have going on there, Barry.
Thank you.
And now let us like dive deep into this conversation. And without further ado, we normally ask our guests on Proudly Asian a set of questions just to kick things off. So why don't we start with you telling us about your background? Who are you? What are you? And where did you grow up, Barry?
Well, first of all, while in Hong Kong, I'm living my Thai life.
That's already the dream life.
This is living my dream life for sure.
Yeah.
But rewind back, born and raised in Toronto, so I'm Canadian. I moved to New York 10 years ago. So also a New Yorker, I guess. But my family is from Hong Kong and Macau. So that's kind of like my root and heritage and why I'm always back here. My family and relatives are here. So I'm visiting with them as well as friends while here. So I started very Asian background in finance, studied accounting, worked in accounting, worked in a bank. But I found out that wasn't my passion. I wasn't even good in math. Like I literally have to use a calculator or Excel. Like that's how I can like do the math. In my head, not good. So I quickly discovered that wasn't what my passion was, and I didn't enjoy my day-to-day life. So I decided to quit my 9 to 5, and decided to travel. Travel is one of my passions, and I love it. I love seeing new places and meeting new people. So that's what I decided to do.
Wow. And I guess for some of our listeners, some of them might have even come across your blog or your page because like you run this pretty successful page that's called Asian Maple Leaf as well. So that sort of like gives away where you're from for people as well.
Yes.
That's
Asian,
such a
Canadian.
genius username. Like
And it's actually funny where that came from because when Instagram first kind of came around, I didn't know what it was. And I was traveling and some friends were like, oh, you need to, look at this app. And on this app, you can see, follow my pictures. And I was like, okay, but what do I call myself? And he's like, you're Asian, you're Canadian, Asian Maple Leaf. I'm like, okay.
Oh my God. Your friends are some like branding experts.
Yeah, I guess. And I just kept it.
That's an amazing name. I just can't really like think of a better way to, like sort of like sums up your background and what you're about. But I mean, obviously you mentioned you grew up in a Cantonese household in Toronto. So I'm just wondering like what it was like for you, your childhood's life in Canada. What was breakfast like? Hopefully not just one dumpling. And any like parents' expectations and all.
For sure. So, I mean, Canada's quite multicultural. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a quite large Cantonese Chinese population in Toronto. So despite that, though, growing up, I would say that I still encountered discrimination and some racism. Growing up, we lived in an Italian neighborhood, and they're great. But at the same time, we didn't see other people like us. We were the only Asian family there. So growing up, like, as kids would make fun of kids. And, there's a little bit of like making fun of, how we look and our eyes or like how we speak. So growing up, we did have to feel a little bit of that. But my parents, taught us to be very Asian, and they were very frugal, and they would kind of save a lot while they're because they didn't grow up like having a lot. They immigrated from Hong Kong and Macau, not having a lot. So that kind of passed on to us. And I always remember like when I kind of grew up and we would get groceries, they would like take stuff out of my cart. Like I can get this cheaper here or cheaper there. And it's like, oh my gosh, like that's kind of like the lessons that we learned.
I was like, nah, you don't need that can of Coke.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. They're very like, I don't know, Asian families to me, a lot of it's based on like scarcity and not having. And I think that comes from because my parents, again, growing up not having a lot and, just kind of struggling and just trying to pay the bills or find a job or working multiple jobs. That's what passes on to the children. And that, I think, helped me quit my 9 to 5 because I was able to save. I learned that from my parents.
Wow. So that's how like that whole like scarcity mindset got manifested in a sort of like a positive way. As in you're not really like in a place of, oh, like it's never enough. So like you just get so stressed out. But then it's like because of that, you are able to live your dream life.
Correct.
I love that.
Correct. But there is a flip side because being, I guess, saving and living from a perspective of scarcity, you then don't take a chance and move on and do something that's different. Because, with quitting, it's very much like, like, are you sure? Like, it's not stable. You're not going to get paid. Yeah. So you have to, like, there's a balance, I think.
Yeah, I think, I guess, like, quitting 9 to 5, not just for Asians, is like, it's scary for everyone. But then sometimes there comes some point in your life where you just have to kind of, like, take a chance on yourself and see what's up. And, I just love how you have somehow like embarked on this literally journey to like how many, like 35 and counting countries, which we'll get like into that. But I mean, obviously going back to you growing up in Toronto, you mentioned a little bit about that whole like discrimination element, which like a lot of Asian kids outside Asia would experience. But I'm also wondering, did you embrace your other side of your identity, which is like being gay? And did that sort of like play a part in your childhood as well?
Oh, definitely. I think growing up, similar to growing up Asian, I mean, there's a duality in, who I am, being Asian, being gay, gay Asian, um, the being gay part was very difficult growing up. It was just, again, I didn't know people who were gay. I wasn't around people who were gay. Um, and also in the family, it wasn't necessarily something that we would talk about. So it just, is this normal or not? Was a question always growing up. And it's like something that I didn't feel like I can talk about. So I think that made it difficult for me understanding, especially as a child, what that meant. Like, is something wrong, or it's like something that, that I shouldn't be thinking about, or like that sort of thing.
I guess it's definitely very like difficult. Like it also depends on the environment that you are in as well. Like for example, like the kids who grew up in a school where like he or she is the only Asian, as opposed to like a kid who grew up in a school where like, oh, like he or she is not the only one. There's like a few more around. The experience is completely different.
I think that's where representation comes in, where you see yourself like in marketing or at school or wherever. If you see someone like you, then you can identify with them and you can better appreciate even yourself. And I think that was the hardest part for me, was I didn't see people who were Asian, not many, growing up in school. And then obviously not anyone that I knew of gay growing up.
Yeah. And I mean, like, as you pointed out, like growing up, there would be that question, like, oh, why am I not like everyone else? Like, what's wrong with me?
I mean, obviously now I know I'm fabulous, but back then it was really hard in terms of like understanding what it meant. And like being different is never easy, right? Like different in any way.
No, I think even now, like on Proudly Asian, we always talk about, like embracing, us being different. Like every person is different. But I understand, like for kids, for teenagers, or even like, I don't know if now teenagers have it easier because of how empowered their voices are on social media.
I guess, I mean, I don't know how they feel, but I feel like yes, because they see more of themselves from social media. But at the same time, I feel social media could make it difficult, because then there's like a certain standard, like, you present the best of yourself on social media.
Yes.
And then it's hard to live to that expectation of perfection that you see on social media.
That's so true.
Even though I'm on it on Instagram and I post my travels, and I mean, I'm trying to post the moments to inspire travel and to inspire, diversity in travel. But it also like, if I'm like fighting with Teraj, my partner, I'm not going to be like, hang on, let me take a picture of this so I can post it on Instagram.
Live stream
exactly. Yeah, so that's not going to be on there, and I think that might not show the true representation of one person's life on social media, and that could be the difficult part for young people today.
That's true, and especially when they might not be mature enough to like identify like what's real and not real, what's curated on social media as well. So
exactly.
You're right. But I do think like looking from the positive lens of maybe social media, or like the more empowered voices of the youth these days, I could definitely tell that, they definitely might be equipped with like more language around like how to talk about their own differences.
Yes.
Because like growing up, like I gotta say, as a kid, I wouldn't even know, there was a term, LGBTQ plus, diversity and inclusion. What's that? Like Asian diasporas.
Yes.
And I didn't even know like Asian Americans existed until I met some Asian Americans, right? I was like, there are people like me, and there are terms to describe those experiences.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting that people today, at least from a gay perspective, they're more embracive of themselves. I feel like, at least on social media, at a younger age, that they can identify and kind of be more positive, or it feels more positive. But I'm sure, obviously, like this is like one small segment that you see on social media. But again, there are people who could be suffering, or who could be not comfortable, and you won't see that part of it. But at least what we see seems like a little bit more open, I guess, from the younger generation. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's improving, like you said.
I hope so. And this is why like representation, like you said, is very important. And this is also why we always make it a point to like do some Pride Month special on Proudly Asian, because I think it's very important for people to be able to see like different types of LGBTQ plus members from around the world, from different places, like living their best lives. I mean, I don't understand why we need to prove this point, but then they are just normal people. They are living completely normal lives. Like I just wish there was no problem around like discrimination or like how people would think, oh, if a person is gay, the person is like giving up on his own life.
Definitely not, because I'm traveling around the world enjoying my Thai life right now. So
it's like we have like a very successful, accomplished Tai right next to us. So I'm gonna continue like to grill him on his like secrets of success and everything.
Actually, do we need to like tell the listeners, maybe they don't know what a Tai is?
Tai is like, how would you put it?
I would say, I think it's kind of like, I guess in like Western culture, it would be like ladies who lunch. Like they have the time and leisure to kind of just not worry about work and not be at work and just lunch and have cocktails.
And then it's like with the pinkies on.
Yes. That's
like,
that's how I imagine it.
It sounds like Housewives of Beverly Hills, you know? Do you watch that show?
I have not, but I know of it. Maybe we should do Housewife of Hong Kong.
Oh. Ooh.
And I could be a Tai on it too.
Oh my God. Just think about like all the amazing outfits.
Oh my God.
All the champagne brunches. Oh, it sounds amazing. Now, I mean, like going back to you growing up, I'm wondering if you'll be up for sharing your coming out experience with us.
Oh yeah, definitely. It wasn't easy. Again, thinking back how it was for me, where I didn't know anyone gay. Coming out wasn't the easiest, and it wasn't something that I thought I needed to do, but at the same time, I felt like I wanted to do. Just because it was such a big part of who I was. And I felt like it's hard to live a life of like dual personality almost, because I had to like have my straight life and then like my true gay life. And I can't, like, I have a horrible memory, so I can't keep like the stories straight. So it would be so hard. Like, it was so hard for me to be like, what did I tell this person? Or what did I tell that person? And like, when they asked like, do you have a girlfriend? I'm like, I make some sort of excuse for this person and like another excuse for that person. It's just like, oh my God, like it was just too much for me to keep track of. So it was just out of like my sanity. That's probably why the driving force of me coming out, and obviously like just living my life. Like, I need to move out. I need to have a partner, and like it's just too hard to hide all of that. So that was kind of the driving force. But I came out kind of like, I'm a planner, so I kind of like
did you have a spreadsheet?
I didn't have a spreadsheet for this part, but I did think it through, and I told my brothers first. So I have an older brother and a younger brother. I told my younger brother, and I told him to spy for me, to kind of like gauge my parents, kind of like their thoughts on gay people, and if they have any suspicions of me, or like what do they think of me, and that sort of stuff. Just like, to get
put
a
on
sense.
A TV show with
yeah.
people.
It's just kind of like, what do you think? That sort of thing. Because I had some gay friends, and I openly told my parents and my brothers that they were gay. It's like, they're together, My brothers were fine with it. So I'm like, okay, perfect. My brothers are good. So then it's kind of like, okay, like gauge it with my parents and see what they think. They were, lukewarm, not the best, but they didn't seem like too against it. So then that's where I kind of like decided to kind of one day go home. No one was home. And then I told my mom, obviously, you tell your mom stuff first.
Yes.
So I'm like, tell my mom, I'm like, I'm actually with, like at the time, my boyfriend. I was like, oh, I'm actually with that person. And she's like kind of taken aback. And then she's like, oh, wait, to tell like your dad. And then, but they were both like surprised, which surprised me. I'm like, girl, like you can't tell that I'm gay. Like I thought you knew. But they didn't. They just thought I was like, they just took what I said for face value. So when I say that person was my friend, they took it as that was my friend and not anything more. But they were generally fine with it. I mean, obviously it could be better, it could be worse. I would say I'm pretty fortunate. They were very accepting. They were loving in the sense that like it's more about like we love you. I don't think they said it that way, because Asian people don't say they love you.
They just give you fruits.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it was implied that they love me. But they were more concerned about me as a person. It's kind of like they did say like, why would you choose such a difficult life for yourself? Because obviously they don't have the reference point of, knowing gay people either. So to them, it's a choice. So obviously I'm like saying, no, it's not a choice. And at that point I was like hoping one of my brothers or sister-in-laws would come home. So I was like, call in the backup to help. So it's not just like I'm here
Just
trapped in my
echo.
home. Yeah, exactly. Echoes and silence and like, what am I supposed to say now?
I see. Wow.
But
Wow.
generally, I would say, I mean, obviously at the time I felt like crap, but now looking back, I'm like, oh, it's not bad. Pretty fortunate, pretty good. They took it pretty well, relatively, for an Asian parent.
And it only took one conversation.
Yeah, they took one conversation, but like any Asian parents, they never talked about it again. Like I never spoke to them again about it. It's like, we don't need to talk about it again. It's known, that's it.
Understood.
Understood?
Noted.
Your friend can come over for dinner, like that sort of thing.
Aw, it's like that's definitely like a sign of like Asian acceptance when they serve food to
Yes.
your partner, right?
Oh my God, yes. So my partner Teraj, we've been together for 9 years. So now when he comes over, so he's allergic to shellfish. So my parents, it's like, oh, is your friend coming over? And then they would make a separate dish that doesn't have shrimp or whatever. So it's like, I don't know if you know the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
So it's like acts of service. It's like, that's how they show that they know and care.
Cute.
Yeah.
Wow.
So definitely there's that. And they always get like the food that he likes. Like, he likes chicken feet and like,
I was like, eat more.
yeah, eat more. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's very much that.
So I take it as like you sort of came out to your parents a little later in life. But then I was just wondering, like during your earlier years, did you always like ponder when would be the time to sort of like tell your family, or just as you mentioned, like you expected them to sort of get the message?
Yeah, I mean, also, I think when I was younger, I didn't even know what it meant. It was like, obviously I knew I was gay, but it's like, okay, like, is it something that, I don't know, like, it wasn't as clear to me. And then also like, I thought my parents knew, like you said, and also I just, even when they were surprised that, like, I was surprised that they were surprised that I was gay. I was like, what? Like, it was
like
so obvious.
like layers of
Yeah.
surprise.
I was like, okay, first of all, I went to Chinese school in the summer. Like they had summer Chinese school. And when they had like gym class and they would play like dodgeball, I would be like with the teacher, and like instead of playing, I'm like, can we like fold origamis together? And we were folding stuff while everyone was playing sports. Is that not a sign? Like, I don't know what else like would be a bigger sign. I'm like folding stuff on the side with the teacher, and like people are playing like sports.
I get you. Yeah. I feel like maybe even back then, like people were not educated enough to sort of like put the pieces together, right? It's like, have you ever been told like, oh, don't do those like girlish stuff?
Oh,
Or-
yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah. I think if I recall right, I think like there was one Christmas or one birthday where like we all got to choose like toys. And then I think it's like, I forget if it's a truck or like a pulley, like some sort of something with wheels, or like a stuffed doll, or what, like dog or animal. I was like, I think my brothers pulled the thing, picked the thing with the wheels, and then I think I picked like the stuffed animal.
That could be quite unisex, right?
True. But like, there's like a slight difference, I think.
A slight tendency
Yeah,
over
tendency.
like your choices and preferences.
Yeah, even in school, I used to play like a lot with like my girlfriends as opposed to like hanging out with the guys.
But then like I could see like from Asian parents' perspective, they're like, oh, great, my boy's hanging out with girls.
Yes, it's very true. But little did you know.
It's like, here's a little player. Maybe that's what they were thinking.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, but like now that you have just talked about your coming out experience, and I mean, obviously growing up, you mentioned you also did not have the language to really like quite talk about, what you were, the kind of experience that you went through. So if you get a chance to sort of talk to your younger self again, what is it that you want to tell him?
Oh, I think one of the lessons I learned throughout my life is being authentic to yourself and being your true self. I think that's really, really important. And obviously back then I wouldn't know all of this. It's like it takes life's journey for you to kind of like grow and learn what is important. But if I can go back, that would be one thing, would be like live an authentic life and be true to yourself and not have to hide who you are. Because like I feel like, and I truly believe that like one of my greatest strengths is derived from being Asian and being gay. And I think back then, for both of those, I wish I was neither. And I think that's not, obviously, like, it's not something that I should be thinking back then, but like, I didn't know. So I think that's definitely one thing I would want to kind of make sure that the youth of today as well know that, you know, be yourself and be comfortable in your own skin.
I love that message. And I also just want to like quickly bring up, like, on one of the episodes, we interviewed this transgender psychology lecturer, Brenda, and then she basically mentioned how like currently she is a lecturer teaching people about like gender studies, you know, that transgender experience, right? And then I think her message for our listeners also sort of like echoed what you just said, which is like the only way for her was just to be herself. Because she is being herself, she's able to teach people about herself. I mean, that's what she does for work right now. So I still remember that message, and that really like sort of touched my heart. Like from time to time, I think about that whenever I feel a bit lost, and it just somehow like teaches me, yeah, the only way to go forward, to approach life, is just be ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. And I think living your true self, living your true life, and being yourself is important, because it's like the negative self-talk is like very hard on, like very damaging. It's like, because I do remember like growing up, it's like always like, by being gay, then I cannot do X, Y, Z. Like I won't be, you know, normal, or by being Asian, then I must have like the A plus, you know, in math or whatever. Like there's too much negative self-talk, which I think doesn't help, you know, especially as a kid. And it does even carry forward to kind of decisions made as an adult. Like I think I still a lot of times kind of like work on myself and not kind of like talk myself down in terms of doing stuff. Like it's so easy to think, even like the quitting 9 to 5, if it's like purely of like, oh, but if I quit, then I don't have this, or like, you know, there's a lot of negative things that you can associate to things, and you just have to like kind of push yourself forward, and be, again, authentic to what you are passionate about and believe in that.
Yeah, that's so true. And I agree with you how like people who grew up from, you know, like Asian backgrounds, they tend to like put themselves in boxes, and we are our worst critics.
Yes.
Like I don't think anyone would be like as harsh about like ourselves than like us.
Yes. I feel like we all have, like, as Asians especially, imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Because I'm always like, I don't think I'm whether good enough for this, or I don't belong in this atmosphere, or whatever the case may be. And that's definitely something I still work on to improve on. And a lot of times Teraj would be like, always like, what do you mean? Like, you know, of course, like this, like you're like, you know, you belong here, or you can definitely do this, or whatever the case may be. But I think it's the Asianness in us that sometimes, like, you know, may hold us back.
Yeah. And I guess that's okay. Like, it's always okay to acknowledge we have that.
Yeah.
And we're working on that, like, bit by bit.
Oh, I mean, my parents growing up, I mean, bless my parents. Like, I love them. And I truly believe they did the best that they could. Just because, again, they didn't have the information, they didn't have the knowledge, and they didn't have people around them that can explain things to them. But it's so funny, because like growing up, it's like, oh, you know, my older brother, he's the smart one. He learns everything so quickly. My younger brother, you know, he's the baby. He's like very like, you know, it's fine. And I'm the middle child, and it's always like everything I accomplished, they used to say like, oh, you're lucky. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, so I'm not smart, I'm just lucky?
What? Why?
And I think, I mean, obviously I laugh about it now, but obviously I think that still has something in terms of like the self-talk and the
Yeah.
imposter syndrome.
Oh my god, being like Asian, the middle child is like sort of the worst.
But at the same time, I'm not gonna. It's good because then it's like, kids, I'm just in the middle.
That's
Don't worry about me.
yeah, because like I remember some of the guests who would talk about that middle child syndrome where like they always feel like, oh, they're not good enough compared to the eldest
Yes.
sibling and all. It's just like, oh, it's a tough battle.
It used to give me a lot of motivation to surpass and
Oh
try
my
to do
God.
better.
Wow.
Try to, and
Wow.
not saying I can, but that was a driving force.
And I mean, I also want to like ask a little bit more about your relationship with your current partner as well, because like you're in an interracial relationship with your partner, which is, you know, like you being Asian, your partner being Black, and you both as like gay guys walking out and about. Like I can only imagine, there isn't a better way for me to ask this
Yeah.
question, but then I can imagine like you guys must be like subjected to many different types of biases or maybe discrimination left, right, and center. It's like either one of them or all three.
All
of them.
three, yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, if you felt that, or like your experience was sort of like relatively positive. Okay.
Definitely have felt that. Even for this trip, so the 7-month trip around the world. It was like my parents. The first thing they were saying is like, "Oh, but you're Asian. He's Black. Like, are you gonna be safe?" Like, I think like there is like that component, and like you said, then there's that layer of like being gay too, right? So it's like the three. Which one's the worst one?
Oh my god.
Yeah, no. So there's definitely discrimination out there. Like there's little things. It could be like little things in terms of like when we check into a hotel, and this is like true examples. A lot of people would assume we're not together because we don't look like we're together. So that's one thing. And then there's one situation where we're at the hotel and it's like, you know, like I booked a king bed and like the person behind the desk would be like, are you sure? I have rooms with two beds. I'm like, no, a king bed's fine. And there's this back and forth, like 2 beds, 1 bed, 2 beds, 1 bed. And then finally we're like, no, 1 bed, it's fine. She's like, okay, I'll give you a room that has 1 bed, but there's a sofa bed. You can pull it out. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, just give me the key. Like, we'll go upstairs
and sort it out.
Yeah, we'll sort it out.
I see. Wow. So it's just like mostly it's like not really hostile, but just that whole like confusion and misunderstanding.
Yeah, for sure. There was another example where we're transferring through, I forget what city it was, but in the US, we're flying with United, and we're like 2 United flights, but we're transferring within the airport to a second flight. But the first flight was delayed due to their own mechanical issues. So we got late to the airport and we're like, oh my God, we have like 10 minutes to get to this gate or whatever. And we're like dashing through the airport. Like we're like dragging our bags. And then like Teraj was running fast. I'm like, go to the gate. Hold the plane. So we got there. They even like scan our boarding pass. So we got to the jet bridge or whatever to get onto the plane. And they closed the door. So we're like, oh my God, like we were so close, and they even scanned it, right? So we thought we were going to make it, but we didn't. So anyways, we had to go to customer service. So we went to customer service, told them what has happened. You know, we missed the flight because of the first flight. So you need to rebook us. I'm pretty shy as a person. So I'm like, Teraj, you go ask the question. I'm like, you go. So he went to ask, and he was explaining the situation. But the person behind the desk was like, I think between like a bad day and probably like some sort of internal bias or whatever, she was like, don't raise your voice. Don't be aggressive. And like he wasn't at all. But like, and there's like other people, like non-Asian, non-Black people yelling, like on the same flight, missing the flight, yelling and stuff. And they were totally fine. But he was aggressive and yelling and being loud. So then she was like not having it. She had to call the manager over, and then like the manager's like, no, like, you know, like calm down. And like Teraj was very calm and just explaining the situation. So I think there's like some internal or some sort of bias there
yeah.
for sure. Racism maybe. So then I'm just like tapping Teraj. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna talk to them instead. So then like
Right.
I would come forward and speak, and then he's not saying a word anymore. And then eventually she's like very nice to me,
What?
and she was like definitely helping me find a flight.
Oh my god.
It's just like the contrast. Like sometimes it's like blatant almost.
Wow. That's crazy.
So it's like sometimes we just like pick like who would have the better odds
And
of
it's
getting
just
what we
like
want.
at any given time, it's just like any given situation, you just need to like actively decide which card you
Yeah,
play.
yeah. Like, is the Asian card better at this? I trump you with this card or whatever.
I get you. Wow, that's crazy. And I mean, just for our like listeners context as well, like you are, currently a travel blogger, and then you also mentioned like briefly during our chat that you basically quit your 9 to 5 and then traveled to more than like 30 countries in 7 months. And I guess our listeners would have like so many questions, but I mean, just to like get us started talking about your tour around the world with your partner, I mean, like what initially sparked that idea?
The main thing was I wasn't happy with my job at the time. So working in finance, I'm not good at math again.
I still can't imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not good as like already like normal people's like
I
really
don't know.
good.
I wouldn't say that. I'm good with spreadsheets. I do love a good spreadsheet. I do have to say that part. But no, I'm not good at math. But my background, and the funny thing is I have an accounting designation. I have like a financial analyst designation. I have all these financial designations. I'm very like designated with finance.
Successful Asian
No,
here.
yeah, I meet the Asian, pass or whatever. But none of that was my passion. I used to like log in and it's just like dreadful. Like it's just like I wait for the day to be over and then like I'm grumpy after. It's just like not my thing. I was never fulfilled by living that life. So then I've always like kind of like questioned like, is this it? Like people work and then they retire at 65 or 68 or whatever, and like then you get to like enjoy your life. Like that's
Like,
it.
go on your cruise.
Yeah, you're going on your cruise and like that's it. So then the pandemic happened, and that kind of like made me reflect on how life can just like anything can happen, and like things can just come into your life and you don't know, and you can't plan for it all. And then also when I moved to the US like 9 years ago, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer. So seeing him dealing with that and retiring, then enjoying life, but then you don't know what's going to happen and you may not be able to enjoy it later in life, kind of made me think about I don't want to wait and I'd rather enjoy my life now instead of 65, 68 or whenever the case may be for my cruise.
Because you don't even know if you have any life left.
Yeah, you don't
after.
know. Like things can happen.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to wait anymore. So I decided that, I need to quit. I need to quit and I need to live my life and enjoy my life like now. So then that's when I started to plan my journey and plan my life and
On a spreadsheet.
a giant, massive spreadsheet. You have to see it.
It's like, can we like attach a template for
Yeah,
our listeners
multiple tabs and all the places that we stay.
to plan your Asian world tour?
Yes. Yes, definitely. But yeah, no, that was the main spark that kind of made me think about retiring early. And then I love travel, and travel was my passion or is my passion. So then it was natural that like, okay, I'm gonna celebrate by traveling around the world. And Teraj was up for the journey, so he obviously was very, very supportive. So that's what we did. 7 months, 36 countries.
Like sometimes people like would take a whole lifetime to be able to travel to 30 countries, and you just did that in 7 months. It's like, I feel like we need another episode around like
Planning the spreadsheet.
like
I'll show
a
you how it all
workshop.
works.
But I mean, like obviously 30 countries, like what are some of the, I'm sure there are a lot of highlights, but then what are the highlights, and are there any like lowlights?
Oh, yes. So highlights, I think all, for me at least, revolves around people. So one of the highlights I that always pops in my mind is Jordan. So in the Middle East, we joined an Intrepid tour, and there was like 8 of us, I think, on the tour. And it was just like the people made the tour great. And then also in Jordan, Middle East, I don't know if you know, like it's not known for being the most LGBTQ plus friendly. So we kind of went in with like expectations of like, we booked 2 beds, like, you put the preference in like 2 beds, not 1. We're not like, don't walk close to me sort of thing. We'll just like be friends. But the tour guide with Intrepid found out that we were together because we were like shopping. we got shiny rings caught our eyes. so we decided to look, and we're like both getting the same one, and like everyone on the tour was looking at it. So then it became very obvious that we're together. So he discovered that we were together. So then he changed all of our subsequent hotel stays to 1 bed. Like on his own. Like we didn't ask for it.
So thoughtful.
Yeah, but I did not expect that from someone in Jordan, right? But like at the end, and then when we spoke with him, he was like, no, like it's just kind of like people mind their own thing. Like it's not it's not something that I would be concerned with, like, so it's just that you don't, I guess, like bottom line is like you don't know, and not everyone in a culture can be generalized. Because the individual can have different thoughts and different kind of like views on people.
Right. So would your tip, like maybe for like LGBTQ couples who travel, let's say, I mean, I don't know if this is specifically for Jordan or like even for Middle East, it's like maybe as long as there's no like PDA, you're not like really interrupting people with your with being a couple, that's fine.
I think that's how we travel. We try to kind of like go with the local culture and understand and respect the local culture. So we're not gonna like rub it in your face just because I want to prove that it's okay. So if the culture is not okay with it, like we will do our separate beds. We'll just not do PDA like you suggested. But yeah, no, I just like I feel like you just have to respect people's culture. Like it's not necessarily that they like the tour guide was saying that it's PDA not necessarily to men, to women. It's for anyone. So it's not necessarily discriminating particularly against the LGBTQ plus community, but it's just in general. And then if you're respectful of that, then at least for us, I mean, our experience may be different from everyone else. For us, we were fine.
Right. I mean, like that's definitely understandable. Like whether or not it's like LGBTQ plus couples or like straight couples, I mean, it's like common courtesy that you're not kind of like serving your affection in the face of people. Like sometimes, like, imagine like if you're friends, you're like at a friend's dinner, and then
you're just like,
and then like a straight couple is like make it. I was like, get a room.
No, exactly.
Like, if you don't do that, then I mean.
But I do have like some stats too in terms of like just to put some perspective on like, okay, we're very like Teraj and I are very fortunate with our travel that, I mean, we have experienced discrimination and like, biases, but nothing severe. And we still love travel. We still love meeting people. But I would say there's like more than 70 countries that are still like have laws against LGBTQ people. Like, so that's staggering, right? Like, that's a lot. And then also, and this might even be higher for Asian countries, but more than 50% of American travelers, LGBTQ travelers, have experienced harassment or discrimination while they're traveling. So, and then that's like American, like that's like white people. So if you think about that, I would imagine it's even worse for Asians.
Because there are different layers of like discrimination, like subjected to Asians even.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's like discrimination within even the LGBTQ plus community itself.
True.
So it's not the easiest. But obviously like you can't just hide at home.
That's crazy. Like those are some really crazy stats to be citing and to think that we live in 2024.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Wow.
And there are some countries that are like there's like death penalties.
Wow. So I guess like maybe like some tips that's very specific to like LGBTQ plus travel is like to make sure like they do their research.
Oh, 100%.
Right, right.
Yeah, we definitely do our research for the countries that have issues to make sure it's safe before we go. So there's a lot of like resources online and a lot of like sites or blogs that you can look at just to make sure that like people like us, when we go, is it okay or not?
Yeah.
And what you can show or what you shouldn't show.
And I guess probably your blog will be one of the good resources.
I mean, yeah, definitely. My blog has kind of our own travel experiences. So you can definitely check out at least the places that we've been were okay for us.
Yeah, Asian Maple Leaf for those who would like to check out Barry's
you.
blog. And I mean, like, I know before we started recording, I was sort of like asking you this question, like, if you have to kind of like pick 5, top moments from this world tour of yours, like, what will be your top 5 moments?
Oh, it's so hard to pick.
I know.
And I have a horrible memories.
And like, you had like 30 plus countries to choose from.
I know. We call it a tasting menu for this trip because it's like 7 months and 36 countries, but it was to go to a lot of places and kind of like decide which ones we liked and which ones we didn't like so that we can go back. But top moments, I mean, again, just going back to the people element, Jordan was the people. We had lunch with the first lady of Iceland was a moment.
Wow.
Just like meeting people, like it was just like crazy, just like the people that you meet along the way. And then in Asia, Singapore, Taiwan, it's just like some followers that we met and some locals, and then we hung out with them and went out. Like those are like the moments that come to mind because there's a sharing of something, like a moment. Yeah. Low life. I mean, none of it's everything in my life, I feel like, is a moment that I would never change because every moment brings me to where I need to be. For me, South Africa was not my favorite spot. I think it might be an element of the weather wasn't the best either. So we went on safari. It was like cold. It was raining.
Which month was it?
It was in September, I believe.
I see. Oh.
But it was just like so cold, so wet. The animals were not like they were finding shelter, and we're trying going around.
They're not even up for it.
No, they're not even out. So we're just like circling around looking for animals that were hiding, and we're like freezing. No. And then at one point, like Teraj like pulled out his phone, and he's like trying to find an Uber in the middle of the safari. I'm like, where are you gonna go?
And maybe like a lion would be like, you called for Uber?
It was like a low light for us just because it was like so cold and we weren't dressed properly. Like we were like, oh, it's gonna be warm. It's gonna be so nice. And like it's like pouring and like all wet. And it's just like I can't feel anything, like all of that.
Oh wow. I hope maybe eventually you pick a season where like it's guaranteed to be
know.
like good weather.
I need to
give it another chance.
Give it another chance, yeah, for sure. And then also I think the safari for me at least, I mean obviously we didn't see much on that one, but because we've been to Kenya, Tanzania, like Rwanda for the gorilla trek, we saw a lot. So it's kind of like, okay, now this is like like rain, cold, nothing to see. So I'll give it another chance.
You're like, oh, ready to go.
Yeah.
I get you. And just overall, like 7 months of traveling, right? And I'm just wondering, like, if you would have any like advice for those who are sort of like looking into doing the same as you did, like they want to go on this like once in a lifetime world tour. I guess there's no better person than you to ask because you're the
I don't know about that, but
of probably like
I'll
planning, budgeting, like any like top tips that you could think of.
No, I definitely think that's it. Planning. You definitely have to plan. Like, I mean, I'm sure it'll work out, but I wouldn't recommend doing it on a whim. I decided to do it, but then I think I planned like 2 years for it to happen, with the support of Teraj. Plan, and then also be flexible at the same time. So you plan out your trip and you plan out your quitting, but be flexible in terms of like, things happen and it doesn't have to be set in stone. So for myself, quitting, I know I'm very Asian, so like very like like want to please everyone. But to make it happen, I told everyone that I'm gonna quit, so that even my boss and
Oh
my
my God.
and my colleagues, so that I can't back out because I know I would be like, what's one more month? I'll just work one more month, and then like my parents would say something, and then I would be like, they're right. Why would I quit? I'll stay. The benefits are not bad. Like, you can always find some sort of excuse. So then I figured for myself, I'm like, I know my weakness. So I'm like, I'm going to tell everyone. So if I tell everyone the other things, like, I don't want to be embarrassed by not doing it. So then I'm
That's
like,
true.
so which one's like, trumps it? So by telling everyone, I just kind of like ensure that like there's some sort of like goal, commitment
Yeah.
to do it. So that's my strategy of making sure it happens. But I definitely say you have to plan it, your retirement, and I do acknowledge I'm very privileged to be able to quit and to travel, and not everyone has the same opportunity. But at the same time, I would say that like pursue your passion and live your life, right? So if this is something you do, there's life choices that you can make to make it happen, and do it. Like for me, I don't spend much on like material things. I rather spend it on experiences. So it's choices that I make in my life that allow for this to happen. And some people hopefully can make choices that allow them to do what they want to do.
And I mean, like, I agree. Like, there are also like seasons of life as well. Like, between seasons, one is, like free to sort of like just explore and do what they want. And then it's always okay. Like, oh, if you think, oh, okay, I've taken my break and I'm ready to work again, then you can always go back to it. So it's like
100%.
different seasons.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I realize is like, it's not like you quit and like you can never work again.
Exactly.
It's not that final.
It's like allow things to happen.
Allow things to happen. You never know. Like your life is like, I don't know. It's what you make of it. And it's, to me, I feel, I don't know if you ever read or saw the movie The Secret.
Oh, not yet.
It's basically, the concept is kind of like what you put out to the universe, like just the energy that you make things happen by kind of wanting it to happen. And I truly believe in that, in the sense that like obviously it's not like a magic wishing fountain or anything, but it's more that like you make it happen yourself because that's what you truly want to happen. So for me, like I wanted to travel. I've always wanted to travel around the world, and this is something that I kind of manifested into my reality because that's what I wanted. But at the same time, knowing that it's not finite, like if I need to go back to work, I can go back to work.
Yeah, because you could get tired of traveling sometimes, right?
I hope not. I hope not.
But I mean, like, even like for tips, like from a traveling perspective, like, are there any like travel hacks that you have accumulated over time? So, I guess sometimes people might have like, oh, not to advertise, but that's oh, this credit card is great because it will allow you
you're talking my language.
Like, it allows you lounge access.
Oh yes, 100%.
Occasional business first class.
All of that.
Access. Upgrades.
I love points. I have spreadsheets for those too. But yes, I definitely have. So for this trip, I got all these like so many credit cards. I have a spreadsheet to keep track of my credit cards, because like certain cards give you status for certain hotels. Certain cards give you status with certain airlines or points with airlines. So for this trip, I mean, I definitely used a lot of credit cards for access to lounges, for example. So like, I think we stayed over 200 nights for this trip.
Wow.
I think the majority, maybe 90% of it is in hotels. And for the most part, I would say most of those, we had like breakfast or lounge access because of these credit cards. So then we have one meal checked off, right? Like, and we would wake up later and have the late breakfast, rushing to the last 5 minutes or whatever to get breakfast. And then, you pretty much can skip lunch too. So like in terms of budgeting, that helps a lot. So in terms of hacks, I mean, like look into, your own circumstances in terms of like what cards or what you want to do. But for me, the points and credit cards definitely helped a lot.
I've heard like sometimes people, they would like even get upgrades when it comes to like flying. Like, does it happen often, or like it will take some really like extreme circumstances?
For airlines, it's a little bit, for me at least, let me know if you find out how to get upgraded.
I would like to know too. Please,
Yeah, let us
listeners,
know.
let us know. Credit card companies,
Yes,
if you
yeah.
want.
We would love to work with you.
Sending love.
Yes. For me, at least for airlines, it was more using points to upgrade. So, accumulating points and then using those points to book upgraded flights. So we did have some nice business class or upgraded premium economy flights. But other than using points, I'm not I don't know how to do it. So let us know.
Yeah.
But hotels with those credit cards and status, like for the most part, like I said, I got lounge and breakfast access, but also room upgrades. So then we have a bigger space or a nicer room, which helps with our travel because it's so many days in a hotel, right? So for us, that's definitely a hack or a tip that helped us.
Yeah, for sure. I know a lot of people are scared of credit cards. They think credit cards are a little evil, but then if you know how to manage your money, you don't spend it on things that you can't afford. Credit cards can be your friends.
100%.
With cash bags, points, like you mentioned as well.
Yeah, I think credit cards, it's what you make of it, just like life. You use the credit card and use all the perks to your advantage and just make sure you pay off. Don't have a balance. They charge outrageous rates, horrible rates. You can literally borrow money anywhere else to pay the credit card and still be better off. Yeah, have a better rate. It's crazy how much so I never ever carry a balance. I always pay off my credit card. I have an automatic pay, just pay it all off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I do that too. And then whenever I hear people who don't clear their balance, I'm just I don't understand. That's so chaotic. That sounds chaotic.
Yeah, no, it sounds chaotic, and it is chaotic. Yeah. It's horrible for saving, which is this is the highest rate that you can be paying. So it's definitely not what you should be keeping a balance in.
Yeah.
I think you look around at all the debt you may have, and pay obviously the highest rate off first, and then just kind of work on that.
We definitely need you to come back and just talk about financial tips, and because obviously when we talk about credit cards, even there could be implications for our US listeners as well, with the whole credit score thing.
Oh, I love the credit score. It's okay. So I've been in the US for 9 years, and the only reason my score is not high is because the length of credit, the time that I have the credit score, because I haven't been there long enough. So it deducts I don't know how to calculate it.
So you started accumulating sort of the score late.
Yeah, so I need to be there longer for it to be higher, basically. So my score in Canada is wonderful. But then in the US it's it's not bad.
Yeah.
But it could be better.
That's something to think about, for those who might be interested in moving to the States. Right?
Oh, for sure. They look at that for everything to open credit cards. I think I have 13 credit cards, 13 US credit cards.
Okay.
Open, and none of them have a balance that I don't pay off.
Ooh.
But it's just mostly either this one's good for groceries, this is good for restaurants, this is good for this hotel, this is good for that hotel. So I just pick the right one, I guess.
It's crazy. The credit card game in the US is I had no idea until maybe a couple years ago I knew that a certain fast fashion retail chain even had their own credit card, and then apparently if you use that to shop from their stores you could take a lot of money off. I'm what?
Yeah,
I had no idea. It's crazy.
And make sure you use those points correctly too, because there is optimal usage of points. They always try to I mean, this might be too much information, but the points, the airline points and or travel points that you get is you can buy product with it, or you can use it for travel. If you buy product with it, you can get this bag or whatever for 10,000 points. If you calculate the point usage per point return, it's definitely lower than if you get a business class flight.
True.
Use it on those long haul business class flights are the best usage of points.
That's a very good tip. Your travel hack from, a successful, money savvy Asian. We definitely want you to come back to Proudly Asian to talk about, all things money as well.
Yes.
But now, without further ado, it's time for us to move on to the next segment, which is called Rapid Fires. And in this segment, I'll be asking my guests biased questions that they've got asked at some point in life. So, Barry, are you ready for all these difficult questions?
Always.
Oh my god.
I hope so.
Even looking at the list, it makes me go a little bit like, So, first question, Barry. You can't have a stable or long-term relationship being gay.
Really? Really? For those audience that's not watching, I'm flashing my ring. I've been with my partner for 9 years, happily engaged. So it is possible. But it is funny because I don't know if you heard, but like a lot of times people in the LGBTQ community, it's like, oh, you've been together for 9 years? That's like 50 years in straight years. Like there's like so they definitely view it as like, 1 year is like 7 years or whatever like the comparison is, because there is that perception that in a gay relationship it is shorter, because like I think there's a perception that people are just kind of hooking up as opposed to like having a long-term relationship.
Wow.
But I think that's just a misconception because it's possible.
It is. And here's an example. I'm so happy for you guys. You guys just look so cute, like on all your travel photos. And the next question is, how can you have kids? How can you have a fulfilled life without a family? Wow. So, I mean, I am living my best Thai life right now, so I'm pretty fulfilled, I would say. Yeah. You don't always have to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that traditional family
That
life.
traditional family, and I think that's just societal norms in terms of what is fulfilling and what it means to have a family. And I would say that doesn't apply to me. Actually, after traveling around 36 countries for 7 months and on like 60 flights, I do not want kids ever in my life, ever. So, I mean, I'm not gonna yuck someone's yum. Like, definitely people who want kids.
You do you.
You do you. I don't need that, and I do not crave or like think that that's fulfilling for me.
That's great. As long as you're happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do what makes you happy. That's my motto.
Yeah. And the definition of happiness can change anytime, and it's okay.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also chosen family too.
Yes.
Like, there's like chosen family, which doesn't need to like fit into the mold of having children.
Yeah.
Like, I have a great chosen family in terms of like my friends and support network, and I'm perfectly happy with them.
Wow, I'm so happy to hear. All these might be some of the most like encouraging and positive responses to the rapid fire questions as well. I really enjoy this. And the next question. You can tell if someone is gay, right? You can sense someone is gay. Like, do you have a gaydar?
I was gonna ask, do you know what have you heard of gaydar?
I have heard, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, gaydar is basically the ability to tell if someone's gay. I honestly think mine's broken. Because a lot of times I would be like walking down with Teraj, I'm like, oh, look at that, like, it's like fam, or like, we say like fam as in family, or like, oh, look at that sister, or whatever. But then he's like, no, they're not. I'm like, what? Really? So definitely I may not be the right person to ask, so I cannot tell.
Maybe it runs in the family. That's why your parents
maybe. My parents were so surprised, like, oh, you're not gay? I mean, you are? I mean, what? Like, no.
The gaydar is broken in the family.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, just out of curiosity, like, is gaydar only like something that a gay person would have, or even a straight person?
A straight person can have.
Right.
I think anyone can have it, but just not me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even for me, it's like, I would normally not assume. Like, I've met some people who be like, oh yeah, that guy's definitely gay. I'm just like, oh, I'm not so sure until you ask, right?
Yeah. Although, I mean, are there not some people that you're like 100%?
If I don't hear from them, I would always like leave that 5% in there.
Wait, if you don't hear from them, in terms of like the gay lisp, maybe?
Yeah, like I would be like, okay, I can like I spot some traits, but if the person,
you don't want to make assumptions.
Exactly. If the person does not tell me directly, or I would just assume, okay, maybe he or she is not comfortable telling me, so I'm not gonna make assumptions.
Yeah. Also very, very Asian in terms of like I think Asian people they don't talk about it much.
Yeah.
I don't think necessarily that's your situation, but I know like for me, like my family and like my mom, like after that was the one conversation that we ever talked about, and never again.
That's
It's
true.
not like unspoken. It's just like we know.
I think I come from like a place of like trying to be like respectful because I think as I understand like especially like maybe with Asian LGBTQ plus, they might have different degrees of like comfort when it comes to like talking about like their identity, their sexual orientation. And I think like normally I'm so scared, like I need to have that confirmation the person is comfortable talking about that before I will talk freely about that
no,
with
it's
the
true.
person. Yeah,
It's true. I guess it's someone like if a random person, if I didn't know you and you're like,
exactly.
oh, are you gay? I would be
The
like,
house gay bar.
yeah, I'm like, do I look gay? So I might be offended.
yeah. So I that's definitely another like topic that like should be talked about a little bit more. Like, how can we approach these more like from a respectful perspective? Yeah. And the next question, Barry, is being gay a choice? Can you just decide to stop being gay?
First of all, I mean, I would not decide, like, even if I had the choice, I would not decide to be. I mean, I guess my younger days maybe, but now definitely not. I think being fabulous is a choice, but being gay is not.
There you go.
But I think like I said, my parents, when I first told them, they were very much like, oh, why would you choose such a difficult life for yourself? So I think there is a perception that there's some choice in there. And I know that there's a spectrum of how gay you are, I guess. Definitely very gay. So
Non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Have you
That's
heard of
just who you are.
Have you heard of the term gold star? Gold star gay.
No. What does that mean?
Gold star gay, which Asian I've got gold stars is basically you haven't been with a girl at all.
Oh.
Yeah. So you're like a gold star gay.
Wow. So it's like a universal term in the gay community.
I guess.
So
I
it's
know
like,
of it, yeah.
Are you gold star?
Are you gold star? I mean, and for those who know, there's platinum star too.
What does that mean?
For those who know.
Oh my god. Okay, tell me off air.
Okay.
And for listeners who would like to find out, please pay for our subscription.
There you go.
We're gonna put it behind paywall. Oh my god. And next question. I need to like put on my Asian mom mode. Like, why would you walk away from a stable job to travel?
Because work has been so good to you, right? That's what they say. My mom definitely said that. It's like, oh,
like good benefits.
Yeah, good benefits. And it's like, oh, they like your boss is so good. You know, all of that. But no, like, but even though it's good, like, do I want to live until 65? And then I go on my cruise when I'm like with holding a cane or
It's
whatever.
like shaky.
Yeah, like that's when I want to like because I had benefits. It's totally not worth it. And I would say live your life now.
There you go. And finally, in Rapid Bias, did you win the lottery? Are you secretly rich? Are you not worried about running out of money, Barry?
I'm unemployed. And I definitely am not rich. And I'm living my Thai life. So that's it.
Yeah. It takes a lot of planning, you guys.
Yeah,
So
100%. A lot of planning doesn't just happen. Like I said, 2 years of planning, then quitting, then figuring it out. Still figuring it out as
And
I'm
that's
living my
okay.
Thai life.
yay. And that concludes our Rapid Bias segment, Barry.
I survived!
Yay! And for us to conclude the episode, for those who would like to follow along on your world tour, your journey to come, where can they find you? And do you have any like upcoming travel plans?
Oh, after Hong Kong, I think we're just going back to the US, Miami for now, and then we'll figure it out from there. I don't know. We might be back in Asia again.
Yay! Yay! I would
But-
like to see you in Asia again.
Oh, yes. I would love. I'm trying to make sure this is an annual trip because
Yes,
Hong Kong is one
please.
of our favorite places. So definitely want to be back.
Yeah. And I mean, do follow along on Asian
Maple
Maple
Leaf.
Leaf. And I know that like, because this part of the trip is not like part of your world tour, right? You're here for 2 months and you're on a mission to like learn
Yes.
Chinese and
Oh my
also
God.
learn how to play mahjong. How's that going, actually?
Oh, pretty good, I think. I mean, yeah, so 2 months in Hong Kong, I had 3 goals. One is to learn Mandarin, which I finished level 1 of 6. I went to China and I can pick up some of it, but I'm like, most of it, I'm like, what?
Were you able to order your food?
Pointing, yes.
Okay. This is like 这个.
这个, yeah. Got it. My second goal was mahjong, so I did learn it, and I'm practicing. Like I have an app that I'm like practicing.
Oh,
because I learned
wow.
from my cousins, and then my auntie, like she's ruthless. She's not the type that's like, oh, you know, you're learning, I'll let you in. It's more like, I can't lose face, and like let you in. So it's like I play with her, and like, I have like no more money. Like we play with like fake money, but like I literally was like playing like 2 days ago. I had like no money left.
So you
And
don't
it's
even have fake money
like,
left.
No, we were like, okay, originally we'll finish like the 4, I don't know even what you call it, the 4 wins, like the 4 rounds or whatever. I'm like, I don't think I have enough money for that. So like, we'll just go eat dinner when I'm out of money. So that's how we ended the game.
Oh my. So is it like that Cantonese or like Hong Kong style of mahjong? Because I know there are many different styles.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right.
I think it's Hong Kong style. I'm not 100% sure what I'm learning, but I assume it's the Hong Kong style.
I think one of my excuses for not being able to play mahjong still is because like anyone that I've met, whenever I was like, oh, can I learn mahjong from you? And they're like, sure, like we play with real money. I was like, like that's like
you're gonna lose it all.
I know,
That's
it's
for
like-
sure.
like I'm not a billionaire, so like I would run out of my mahjong money, and by then I would still not be able to like learn the craft.
Do you want to play with me? We can play with like
fake money?
a little bit of money. No, just kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding. We can use
That's why
chips.
I still can't play mahjong.
I'm kidding.
And
my third goal was
yes.
to just learn more about social media in Asia, which I
wow.
am, just being here.
Yeah, you already have a fabulous page.
Oh,
so,
thank you. Check it out.
yeah, so I mean, definitely, like, I know like Barry's very like diligent, very hardworking about like his goals. Like he goes to like weekly Mandarin classes. It's like for real. Like
I went, yep,
like
to class.
he's
And I
not
did my
just on
homework.
Duolingo.
I'm being a good Asian. I actually do the homework. Like I like there's assigned homework, and like I actually do it the day before,
Wow.
and then like there's like a quiz at the end. I would like write, like I actually do it, and then I would go. And I'm never like this in class, like in like real, like back when I was a kid in school, but now in Mandarin class, I'm like waiting for the teacher to pick me. I'm like, pick me. I know the
I'm
answer.
ready.
I'm like, I know the answer. Pick me. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm the nerd in the class now. I'm like, what happened?
I'm so glad like you have made this progress for yourself. You definitely need to come back to Hong Kong more
I do.
often
I
to
do.
complete the different levels.
Exactly. I only
yeah.
did 1 of 6, so hence why 这个 is all I got.
这个. and finally, for us to leave this episode, I just have one last question for you, Barry. Like, what does it mean to you to be proudly Asian and gay?
I think for me, again, it's just being your authentic self. I think that's the most important thing. To be a proud Asian, to be a proud member of the gay community, is very important. And I think people should just really kind of live their life and kind of just believe in themselves and live in their truth. And I think also for your listeners as well, it's like, it only takes one person. It only takes one person to make your experience good or make your experience bad. And you don't even need to be part of the community, but you could be that one person that can help the Asian or the LGBTQ plus community member to feel welcome in Asia or wherever you may be. And that's all it takes. It really just takes one person.
I love this message. And that person does not even have to be like Asian, but
No.
you know, like it could be anyone from any ethnicity, any backgrounds, and just, you know, be that person who opens doors for people.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be Pride Month as well. Just be nice to people, be welcoming to people, and make people feel like at home.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us on your Hong Kong trip, Barry. So lovely to chat with you in person.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yay, and happy Pride Month,
Happy
everyone.
Pride.
Yay.
That's it for this episode of Proudly Asian. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at proudly.asian for more content. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in and signing off for now. I'm Isabel Wong.